good. You really brought it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You hang in there. You got a lot of ability.
Have you ever seen a one-trick pony and feel so happy and free?
Well, I was wondering if I could get some more work.
All I got is weekends. Isn't that when you sit on other dudes' faces?
Have you ever seen a one-legged dog?
Have a beer with me? One beer.
Do
you have a daughter?
Oh, my daughter, she don't like me very much.
You should call her.
And you seen me.
What do you want from me?
I'm an old, broken-down piece of meat, and I deserve to be all alone. I just don't want you to hate me.
And you seen me, but I
2 words. Rematch.
Bring it. You know, with a little luck, this could be my ticket back on top.
Tell me, friend, can you ask for anything?
80s, man, best ever.
Guns N' Roses.
Crew.
Yeah, then that Cobain had to come around and ruin it all.
90s sucked.
90s sucked.
These things that have comforted me, I drive away. My only faith's in the broken bones and bruises I display.
You know, the only place I get hurt is out there.
I'm really here.
This life, you can lose everything you love, everything that loves you. A lot of people told me that I'd never wrestle again. The only one who's going to tell me when I'm through doing my thing is you people here. Now, what do you think? What do you think about this? Oh. Eh? That'll work. Come here. Ah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Working the Indies. We're back, and today we're going to be talking about, I think, probably maybe the best representation of old school indies. I mean, it's so different now. Even though this was in 2008, this movie, this really was kind of the 90s version of pro wrestling in the indies.
Yeah. And even in a lot of that 90s sort of culture bled into the early aughts. And it's really weird, you know, we're coming up on 17 years from when this movie came out. And it's amazing still how, you know, when a lot of the older guys at this point will watch this and they'll get misty-eyed. You know, I still remember one of the most endearing levels of respect this movie got was Roddy Piper got really emotional, and this came out before he died.
Okay, so we are talking about 2008's Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler.
Or this was what put him on the map,
which is a shame because he is probably, to be quite frank, one of my favorite 21st century writers, next to Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. I think the two of them know how to capture human emotion in the darkness of human emotion, because he follows this up with Black Swan after this movie. So this is kind of like the building block of
this
crazy.
Yeah. And the one thing that I'll definitely say about Darren Aronofsky is that, you know, this film is so incredibly indie. Like you can watch this and kind of get that feeling like you're watching, say, a Black Circle Boys, which is a 1997, I believe, independent film, which is one of my favorites of all time. Or even when you look at different indie darlings, Ginger Snaps, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, you know, that sort of grit feel.
Yeah. It has this kind of dreamlike fog element to it. There's just this kind of the muted colors and the atmosphere of creating this kind of realistic, almost mockumentary, documentary style aspect of it, where it shows like, it's not clean
like
at all.
It's like early 21st century Gotham.
Yeah. I did not look up what was this shot on, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was shot on film.
The filming was taking place on 16 millimeter.
60 million. See, there you go. That definitely lends itself to that grit and that aspect. So that's very smart. There's some really well done choices here from every aspect of it. So the one thing I will say I'm gonna get the criticism out of the way right off the bat, and it is
Let's do
the
it.
smallest of small criticisms I could possibly make.
Okay.
We'll talk about the kayfabe aspect of it and pulling back the curtain a lot because this movie does to the nth degree. But you couldn't come up with a better finishing name than Ram Jam. Come on.
I mean, it's very 80s. It's very 80s, though. And I think that's the point, though. I mean, I appreciate that because of the fact that you look at Randy the Ram, who's living in the past. He can't get out of it. In the 80s, for as glamorous and as glitzy as it was, there wasn't a lot of substance. Like a Hulk Hogan match, as much as I hate to say the name. Even as kids, we popped over it, and it's the most simplistic. Comes out, test of strength, throws some punches, running clothesline into the turnbuckle, gets reversed, the heel gets upper hand, almost beats him. Hogan kicks out of a couple of pin attempts, gets punched, starts hulking up, clothesline, big boot, big leg, go home, in and out, 10 to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
There was never a lot of substance, but it was the glitz and the glam that did it. So I think Ram Jam, and what's crazy is that the move in and of itself, it's literally a flying headbutt with forearms involved.
Yeah.
Not a great finisher.
No.
But it works for his character.
There's a great moment in the very beginning when he's climbing the ropes and he can barely stand on the ropes, and you can see his legs shaking, and this, it's so brilliantly done. And then you see this aerial from over top where he does the Ram Jam and he misses so badly with
it is such a botch. It's crazy though when we see at the very beginning of the wrestler how Randy the Ram is struggling. We're seeing a guy that is so past decline.
Yeah.
He's only still doing it because he has nothing left.
Well, and also the whole drug addict thing and the whole, everything about it. It's so well acted here. I mean, everybody who plays a part in this is just so amazingly well done. I mean, Rourke deserved all the accolades. And, it was nice to see a guy like Chris Jericho come out and talk about how real it was and how great Rourke did. They were actually trying to get a match together for WrestleMania at one point, the two of them, which is interesting.
Which would have been interesting, but we also have to give a shout out to Afa Anoa'i.
Yeah,
Mickey Rourke for this film. And what's funny is that you can see when you watch very, very closely, knowing that you can see a little bit of the Samoan wrestling style is in his wrestling style. You can actually see it if you really look. I mean,
the engaged clothesline where he uses the inside of his arm instead of the outside. All the technical things that Afa probably trained all his kids to do.
Yeah. I mean, even the fact that he uses a headbutt as the finisher.
I'm an old broken down piece of meat. And I'm alone. And I deserve to be all alone. I just don't want you to hate me.
All we saw as kids were guys on the big stage and the colorful costumes.
Yeah.
We don't see the guys working their asses off in the the high school gymnasiums, in the VFWs, small crowds.
The three things I really appreciate is the language that was used in this movie, because terms like cheap heat, when he's talking to the young kid at the very beginning about how the kid wants to do this, and he goes, oh yeah, let's get the cheap heat. And there was a lot of great wrestling terminology that is language that only pure wrestling fans would know, that I think it makes it authentic. The way it was shot, in the aspect of this looked like a wrestling production, in terms of where you could see the actual moves being protected and shot to the point where they were actually doing them. And then the backstage aspect of it, where he's talking to the young kids, or when the guy who's pitching him the hardcore match is telling him all this stuff, you could just see like he wants to throw up right.
Yeah, he was really absorbing all the punches.
Yeah.
In the
I mean,
hard.
that was awesome. They showed how they bladed, and I mean, there was so much pulling back the curtain in this movie. I can see why in 2008 it wasn't as well received in the wrestling community as other than the fans. And I think this was just the beginning of the turning of wrestling in terms of pulling back the curtain. I don't believe the secrets of wrestling had been out yet. I think that was after.
They were already coming. I think this was what finished it. I mean, the Attitude Era did a lot of that. The curtain call of '96 really is what really started it.
Yeah. This was also the era of the old wrestlers doing 3-hour shoot interviews on YouTube channels and talking about.
Man, back when YouTube was just Wild West, man.
Trivia time, Bryan Tann.
Trivia time. I love
Do you
trivia.
know that Mickey Rourke was not originally supposed to play the wrestler? And do you know who originally was slated to do it?
I don't know, brother.
It wasn't him.
No,
it was an actor.
It was an actor. All right, I'm gonna guess.
Go for it.
Sylvester Stallone.
No, think crazy.
Crazier?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Crazy actor. Okay. There's so many to choose from.
Think about who was hot at that moment in 2008. He had just done a Marvel movie.
Edward Norton.
Nope.
Robert Downey Jr.
Nope. Crazier.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Oh.
He's uncredited in one of my favorite movies of all time, which is about high school kids and a certain gentleman named Jeff Spicoli.
Oh, Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage, yes.
Okay.
In fact, to the point where Nicolas Cage was actually seen at Ring of Honor shows doing research for the role. He has done interviews since then and said how he was so wrong for this part and how he would have never done what Mickey Rourke had done and how Mickey Rourke just blew it out of the park.
Mickey Rourke brought such a vulnerability. In a lot of ways, you feel sorry for Mickey Rourke because this is a guy who had a boxing career, decided to become an actor, really, really good looking, suffered an accident, and, had really fell on hard times. And you can just look at Mickey Rourke and you can see sadness in his eyes.
Okay, so for people who don't know, just some wrestling stuff real quick. The final match between the Ram and the Ayatollah was filmed at Ring of Honor during a live show. So Ring of Honor was taping at the time. So it was a true Ring of Honor crowd, to the point where Darren Aronofsky had no idea what a wrestling crowd was like, especially an indie wrestling crowd. And they were so loud and so obnoxious because wrestling fans are that way, especially indie ones, especially Ring of Honor fans who just get pumped up and get into it because that's their role. That's what they're supposed to do. And to the point where Darren Aronofsky had to literally stop shooting and get on a megaphone and tell people, hey, look, we're really shooting something in a movie and we can't hear ourselves think. So could you guys, we'll capture all of your essence after, but could you guys just let us film first and then we'll do that? To the greatest part of the indie wrestling fan, because it elicited a chant of "We fucked up."
Yes,
we fucked up.
If you don't know wrestling, you don't know a wrestling crowd. And the thing is, indie crowds are a lot different than what you see with WWE. AEW gets it a little bit because they haven't quite hit that global status yet.
Yeah.
Ring of Honor was the natural progression of the ECW crowd.
Yeah, I mean, you see it in NXT, right? NXT has that fire to it.
I love
that fire to it.
I love the NXT product because it feels so different.
Yeah, it feels indie. It feels like a higher scale production of an indie. It's WWE trying to scuff up their boots.
It's like they bought a $200 pair of Uggs and just
walked through the mud.
And went through the mud. That's exactly what it's like.
Yeah, it's exactly what it's like. Yeah, and this movie is none of that. This movie is as Gym Wars as you can get.
This
it
is,
is
you can smell the sweat
yeah.
in this movie. Okay.
There's a funny part in the movie even where where we first meet Marisa Tomei's character, and he's like, "Sorry, I just got back from a show," because she was smelling him.
Yeah. We got to talk about Marisa Tomei in this film.
Absolutely,
Marisa
and
Tomei,
Evan Rachel Wood as well.
Rachel Wood also. But I'll tell you what, man, Marisa Tomei as an actress, you want to talk about someone who's only gotten better as the years have gone on, and she's never been bad. I mean, she went from being token white girl in a different world to being, to me, the most believable Aunt May to ever grace the character on screen. She's playing a down on her luck, long in the tooth stripper who's only still doing it because she doesn't know anything else. Just trying to make sure that her kid can eat.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're a hair metal fan, you probably have the soundtrack on repeat. No matter, even though you probably don't have the soundtrack, you probably already have it on your Spotify or whatever you use as your playlist in life. Because another interesting fact: Axl Rose volunteered "Sweet Child of Mine" for this movie, but there is also, obviously mental health by Quiet Riot. Every time he gets in a car, there's a Cinderella song, or it's like Cobra Kai. It's like Cobra Kai.
It really is. This is literally Cobra Kai, but with wrestling.
I wouldn't be surprised if Johnny Lawrence doesn't have a Randy the Ram poster on his wall.
So it shocked the hell out of me that he does it.
As time goes by, they say he's washed up. He's finished. He's a loser. He's all through. You know what? The only ones who are going to tell me when I'm through doing my thing is you people here.
There's just something about the disconnection of human beings here too that I think is really fascinating. I mean, this movie really delves into the human condition and the human being human in a world where you're kind of downtrodden and you're living off the past aspect of things. This is the Al Bundy syndrome where you were the star high school quarterback and you can't ever get any better than that. That was your ceiling, and you relive it every single day of the rest of your life. And which is such a brilliant storytelling device in the aspect of that's where Rachel Evan Wood comes in, and where Marisa Tomei, who also is going through that same thing, kind of also changes the trajectory for Randy. And it's so well orchestrated in that aspect as a film, but it is also so well orchestrated because because you've had interactions with the gentleman, guys like Jake the Snake Roberts, Buff Bagwell. Their story doesn't end very beautifully unless DDP gets involved and changes that story, right? So this is very similar to that aspect. There's a lot of wrestlers who would go further down the rabbit hole, and this is a very interesting way to choose how to save him in a lot of ways.
And the thing is that Randy didn't really have anyone that was able or willing to save him.
Yeah.
And I want to circle back, and I really want to circle back to when you're saying about, the person that peaked in high school and never being able to do better than that. But here's the thing. His daughter never needed him to be that guy. She just needed him to be the dependable dad. And he couldn't do it because he felt that he needed to be more, not realizing that he is enough. It's one of those instances too where you got these guys that don't know where they begin and where the character ends.
Yeah.
And furthermore, it's when we talk about the point of peaking, you also have people, you have the vast majority of people in your life that are either A, encouraging you to live in the past, so they're enabling your addiction, but also you have people that take that time of your life that meant something to you and use it against you. In Marisa Tomei's character's case, the little frat boys that she was good enough to give them a lap dance, but once she let them know that she wasn't going to put up with their crap, now they got to demean her. or in Randy the Ram's case, his boss, where the dude just wants to work and he can't just let him work. He's always got to have something to say. He's always got to demean him. You know what I mean? Like,
you need a new pair of tights.
Right. And it's like, what really gets me about it when we talk about the human condition, for one, hurt people hurt people. Number one. So a lot of these people that are caused, like Randy hurts his daughter in a way that she cannot deal with anymore. Why? Because he himself is hurting. It doesn't make it acceptable. It just is the way it is. And I'm really, really glad that Aronofsky, as a writer, does not try to make it okay. He gives the explanation, but the explanation doesn't make it acceptable. And that's what I appreciate, because a lot of the times in film, when the protagonist does something wrong, you know, it would get explained away as, well, you know, it's just what it is. Get over it.
Yeah.
That's not what happened, which I thought was really, really great. But the whole point that I'm, you know, making as I circle back is, you know, you're right. You know, this is a guy who, Randy the Ram has been countless of our heroes that we watched as kids in the 80s. And the guys of that time,
especially our sports figure friends.
Sports figures, because I mean, not just wrestlers. I mean, all right, you want to look at wrestlers, okay, fine. But let's look at, say, where Bo Jackson would have been.
Yeah.
Who are we looking at now, modern day? Tua Tagovailoa, who might have to retire from football at a young age. But you look at the guys that had to leave sports early due to injury, due to too much too fast. This is who Randy the Ram is. Randy the Ram embodies the negative aspects of the 80s, which well, 70s and 80s, which was live fast.
And
have fun.
And the ultimate punishment, which is not to die young, it is to that old. Yeah. I think ultimately what this movie shines a light on is
the abuse these people put their bodies through for our entertainment. We are bloodthirsty freaking savages.
I was gonna say there's a beauty in the darkness. I think that it is really apropos of what this storytelling is doing. But also I think if you're wanting to be in the wrestling business, right? It's so different now. Even in the indies, it's so different, right? But there is this element that still exists there. And maybe this is a cautionary tale for that element. But I think also what it should remind you of is that if you really want to do this, there's dues to be paid. And you just have to, I don't know, you have to be smart about it, right? I think this movie brings a lot of light to the aspect of pulling back the curtain enough to where it's like, let's pump the brakes a little bit and say that you don't have to do this anymore, right?
Right. You can tell a compelling physical story without slashing your body apart now.
Yeah.
There are people that will see this and they will say one of two things. I want to do it anyway, or it won't be me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it anyway. Because the thing is, look, when you love something, you're going to do it. Good, bad, ugly, whatever. You're going to bet on yourself. Like, there are people that get into the military because they have no choice. They get in, they do their minimum amount of time, and they leave. Please don't think that I am looking down on that. Sometimes, look, you need to do something to help you get ahead.
Yeah.
There are other people that joined the military because dad was in the military, uncles were in the military, grandfather was in the military, great-grandfather was in the military. They see it as a calling. They see it as their passion. And there are guys in wrestling like a Jake, or in this film, Randy the Ram, who had nothing else. And he just wanted to hang on. And I'll tell you, the ending of this film, I understand why. I just wish that me as a father, I wish that he would have understood how much his daughter needed him and wanted him in her life until he broke her heart for the last time. But I understand why he went out that way, because he recognized, look, this is all I know. This is all I'm good at. This is all I've ever been good at. All I've ever done is hurt everyone in my life. This is the only place that I don't feel pain. So I'm going out on my own terms.
Yeah.
And this movie, when I first watched this movie, I cried. And then I was actually kind of grateful that I didn't make it into the business. I probably would end up like Randy the Ram. Like, honestly, I'm just going to be real here. You know, as a kid, I had this mindset of, all right, I'm not that tall, but if I got into the NFL, if I got into wrestling, if I got into whatever, I would have been great, because my height would not have stopped my talent.
Yeah.
I would not have been a top guy. I would not have been a top guy. And I would have been on the indies doing every little thing that I could. Even to this day, at 45 years old, I'd still be on the indies, letting people do whatever the hell just so I can get a pop and for a paycheck. I would be Randy the Ram in my own way, except I was never over. It's just what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and this movie shines a light on a lot of aspects of the independent wrestling scene that I think needed to be shined, and I think it's as close to a documentary on that aspect of it as I've seen. I mean, I appreciate that there was this existing, because this is probably more of our generation knowing this than any generation after that. But I think this does give a cautionary tale to, and I think any young wrestler who is getting in the business, who's about to pay their dues, pay attention to this movie. Don't repeat the mistakes that are made. And I think that is its purpose, and it's a beautiful film for that. And I really appreciated all of the participants and all the people who collaborated to make this movie happen.
Yeah.
I won't. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Ernest the Cat Miller here, because
as Bob the Ayatollah. And I'll tell you what, man, Ernest Miller he's a guy that doesn't get enough of his flowers.
No,
he's the
perfect guy to be cast in this movie for this thing.
You can tell he's got a lot of love for his craft. Whatever he does, he has a lot of love for what he does.
Yeah.
And I've always appreciated how, he came from a martial arts background, but he took wrestling so seriously. And he took this role so seriously, and you can feel the care he has for Randy. And I don't think a lot of folks realize that there are a lot of times wrestlers develop these bonds because you're putting your body in another person's hands. And for the record, I like to think that when Randy hit that final Ram Jam, he got the 1, 2, 3, but he died before he even landed the move.
All right. That being said, all right, everybody, thank you for joining us for another Working the Indies. Bryan, you want to take us out? Because we know why.
Oh, look, you know why you watch this. You know why you love it. Because it's always time to go indie now.